This happened a few months ago. I was 34 and driving truck routes that kept me up all night. I preferred those empty roads, far from the chaos of city life. They were my escape from everything, especially the breakup that had been eating at me. I thought I was used to the loneliness, but maybe I wasn't. I think I've never stopped thinking about it. I set off on one of those late-night drives, just me and my truck on that dark stretch of road. The night air felt cool against my skin. It was quiet. The only sound was the rumble of my engine. I kept looking at the dashboard, trying to stay awake. I didn't really want to stop. That's when I saw a figure on the side of the road, waving. It was just a person, right? I thought about stopping. As I got closer, my heart started racing. I pulled on the brake and rolled down the window. "Need a ride?" I shouted. But just like that, they vanished. 1 second there, next second gone. I blinked. Maybe it was exhaustion messing with me. I drove away, feeling uneasy. The next night, as I drove the same stretch, I spotted the shadow of a hitchhiker. I slowed down, but they disappeared as quickly as the last one. Maybe it was just the dark playing tricks, but I couldn't shake the feeling they were there, watching me. My skin tingled beneath my shirt. I pressed on, my palms sweating on the wheel. Then, there was laughter. It came from the trees, echoing through the quiet night. Not the kind that sounds friendly. It curled around me, thick and unsettling. I thought, surely I'm imagining things. But I turned off the radio. My heart raced. I could feel adrenaline flooding my system. I glanced in the mirrors, half expecting to see something behind me. I started doubting myself. I couldn't be losing my mind. Or maybe I was. I drove, and the laughter faded away, but the feeling of being watched only grew stronger. Every shadow along the road felt alive. The air felt heavy like something was pressing down on me. I thought about my last encounter. I had asked a question to the darkness, but I received no answers. I could still hear the laughter echoing in my head. It was then I wondered, were these figures figments of my imagination? Or was there something darker out there in those woods? That night, I drove in a daze, gripped by uncertainty. Then, as I rounded a bend, the air shifted. I felt a sudden chill, like a gust from the grave. I looked up and saw him, a figure standing alone in the middle of the road, just staring. I could barely breathe. Then he asked, "Why are you with her?" I glanced back, my heart racing. Nobody was there. The road felt endless and cold. I wanted to scream. I slammed the gas pedal. Whatever was out there, I didn't want anything to do with it. I drove fast, not looking back. But the laughter followed me, echoing in the night. I kept driving, hoping I could outrun whatever haunted those empty roads. The next night, I was back on that highway. I couldn't shake the feeling of dread from the last encounter. Driving through the darkness felt different now, heavy like a blanket of mist. I thought maybe I should take a different route, but I didn't want to give in to fear. That'd be letting whatever was out there win. I gripped the steering wheel, forcing my mind to focus. As I drove, the shadows danced along the sides of the road. Each flicker made my heart jump. I turned the radio on, hoping to drown out the silence, but the static broke every few seconds. It felt haunted, like the air itself was alive with whispers I couldn't quite catch. Then, out of the corner of my eye, something flashed. Headlights? No, not quite. I squinted, slowing down. There it was again, a shimmer, a glimpse of white against the darkness. I stopped and peered through the windshield. My breath caught. A woman stood there on the side of the road, illuminated by the glow of my lights. Her dress flowed around her like waves, but there was something off. The way she stood, motionless. I could barely see her face. Had I seen her before? It felt like déjà vu, but I shook the thought away. "Do you need help?" I called out, my voice wavering. She didn't respond, she just stared. The stillness felt wrong. Goosebumps prickled my arms. Just as I was about to roll down the window, she raised a hand, pointing. I followed her gaze, expecting something behind me. Nothing was there. I looked back at her, and she was gone. Just like that. My heart raced again. I slammed the gear into drive and began peeling out, gravel crunching beneath my tires. I couldn't breathe. I kept my eyes on the road, but the feeling of being followed crept back. My foot pressed harder on the accelerator. I just had to get away. Then, the laughter returned. It wrapped around me like a fog, thick and suffocating. I felt it in my bones, resonating through the truck. The engine roared, but the laughter echoed louder. My grip on the wheel tightened until my knuckles ached. Suddenly, the lights ahead flickered, and the entire roadway dimmed. I squinted, shocked as I saw silhouettes dancing in the trees, just beyond my peripheral vision. I could barely comprehend what I was seeing. It was like shadows were alive, twisting and writhing in rhythmic delight, mocking me. I took a deep breath and pressed on. My heart sank as I considered my options. I couldn't outrun this. I turned the radio up louder, tried to drown out the sinister cacophony surrounding me. Then there it was again, a figure standing directly in my path. I slammed the brakes, heart in my throat. This one wasn't a shadow. It was a man, clear and tangible, stepping out in front of my truck. I felt a surge of panic. He was grinning, but his eyes were hollow, alive with something ancient and wicked. Before I could even think of rolling the window down, he spoke, the wind carrying his voice to me, a low, menacing whisper. You shouldn't have come back. With that, everything went black. When I opened my eyes again, I was still in the truck, but everything looked different. The dashboard flickered dimly like an old TV on the fritz. I felt disoriented, as if I had just woken from a nightmare. Night had deepened around me, but there was a strange light. The moon cast an eerie glow, illuminating the road ahead. I glanced around, anxiety tightening my chest. There was no sign of the man. Had he vanished? I looked in the rearview mirror, and for a brief moment, I thought I caught a glimpse of his hollow eyes again. But when I turned back, all I saw was the empty road. My hands trembled as I gripped the wheel. I needed to get out of here. I didn't want to linger, so I pressed the gas and rolled forward slowly, scanning the trees for any signs of movement. The laughter was gone, but a low hum replaced it, a melody that felt distant yet familiar, echoing through the silence. I shook my head, trying to clear away the lingering fog of fear. It's just my mind playing tricks, I muttered under my breath. I could do this. I'd driven this road countless times before. But then, just as I settled into the rhythm of the drive, I saw something ahead, a flicker of lights. My heart sank. The last thing I wanted was to deal with whatever was out there again. I could turn around, maybe find another route, but curiosity tugged at me. As I approached, I saw a car stalled on the side of the road. Its hood was popped open, smoke curling into the air. I should have kept going. But the thought of someone needing help broke through my hesitation. I pulled over, unsure of what to expect. A figure was crouched by the engine, a young man with disheveled hair and grimy hands. He looked up as I stepped out, surprised. Hey! Can you help me? I hesitated. His wide eyes glimmered with desperation, but something felt off about him. What's wrong? My car won't start. I think it's the battery. Can you jump it? His voice was urgent, but there was an odd undertone to it, like he was holding something back. I weighed my options. I wanted to help, but the darkness felt thick around us. The moment the words left my mouth, "Yeah, I can try," I regretted it. As I moved toward my truck, a shiver raced down my spine. I turned back to look at him, and that's when I saw it. The shadows around him seemed to grow, swirling like smoke. His smile widened, almost too wide for his face. You shouldn't have come back, he echoed, twisting the words with a taunting lilt. My heart dropped. No. I took a step back, my instincts screaming at me to run. But before I could turn, the world shifted again, the air thick and buzzing. Suddenly, everything blurred. The next thing I saw was the headlights reflecting off the trees, but I was no longer on the highway. I was surrounded by darkness, and I wasn't alone. In the distance, I caught sight of shadowy figures emerging around me, moving closer. Panic surged through me. I had to escape. But how? The road disappeared behind me, and I was lost in a maze of flickering shadows. Then, just as suddenly, I felt the cold grip of someone's hand on my shoulder. You shouldn't have come back. Looking back, I realized I was surrounded by them, all whispering in unison. I tried to scream, but no sound came out, only the choking silence of the dark. I stumbled backward, feeling the shadows close in around me. I wanted to break free, to run, but my legs felt heavy. The presence of the figures loomed larger, their eyes glittering in the dark, reflecting a horrifying mix of malice and curiosity. I was trapped. Who are you? I managed to choke out, desperation leaking into my tone. As the words left my mouth, the shadows seemed to ripple, reacting to my fear. Those who wander, one of them hissed, their voice a chilling whisper that echoed in the emptiness. We gather what is lost. I could barely process their words, my mind racing with fears and fragments of memories. What do you mean? I'm not lost, I shouted, though the conviction in my voice wavered. The figures stepped closer, their forms flickering between my reality and something darker. I could see their faces now twisted, ghostly versions of a dozen people, disfigured but familiar. I swallowed hard, recognizing the faces. Friends. Family. People I used to know. Know this isn't real, I said, shaking my head. You're not real! But as their features evolved into something even more grotesque, the ground beneath me trembled. I could almost hear my heart pound against the growing silence. It was a sickening melody, a twisted symphony that matched the hum I'd heard earlier. Suddenly, the man from the roadside appeared in the crowd, his eyes now fully hooded, grinning as if he were the conductor of this macabre performance. You did come back, he said, his voice chillingly calm. Does it surprise you that we remember? What do you want from me? I shouted, my voice breaking. I glanced around for a way out, but the figures only closed in tighter. To join us, he replied, the grin stretching wider, as if it would split his face apart. You've been summoned. Before I could respond, the ground beneath me cracked open, revealing a chasm filled with whispers. Each one taunted me, you came back. You're one of us now. With every ounce of strength, I turned and sprinted blindly through the darkness. I could hear them following, the echoes of their footsteps merging with that eerie hum. I didn't stop to look back, not daring to find out how close they were. I dashed forward, my breath quickening, until I stumbled upon a flicker of light piercing through the blackness ahead. It was faint, like a beacon in an endless night. I ran toward it, hoping against hope that it would lead to freedom. As I crossed the threshold into the light, I felt the cold hands reaching for me, but they vanished abruptly, as if they had hit a wall. I turned back in confusion, searching for a glimpse of the warped figures, but all I found was an empty void. And then, just like that, everything went dark again. This time, I was lying back in my truck, the engine humming quietly beneath me. The dashboard flickered, but not in the familiar worn-out way. It felt more alive, pulsating like a heartbeat. My heart raced as I peered out into the night. The road lay empty before me, but I could still hear them soft whispering drifting through the air like lost secrets. You shouldn't have come back, echoed in my mind, a haunting reminder of the encounter. I knew one thing for certain, I had to get out of this place before they came for me again. As I gripped the steering wheel, I thought of the flickering headlights in the distance. What other encounters awaited me out there? I turned the key in the ignition, wincing as the engine rumbled to life. The quiet of the night felt eerily deafening, and something inside me knew I had to keep moving. I couldn't let them find me again. I shifted the truck into gear and drove slowly, the tires crunching over the gravel. The lights ahead flickered like distant stars, pairs of headlights bobbing along the road. I had heard the stories, ghostly encounters along these stretches of highway. I never thought I'd end up in one of them. The air filled with tension as I approached a bend. My fingers tightened around the wheel, and I glanced in the rearview mirror. Empty darkness stared back, but I could still hear those whispering voices. You're one of us now. As I rounded the curve, I caught a glimpse of a figure standing at the roadside, pale and motionless. Panic gripped me. Was it another one of them? I slowed the truck, heart racing, but curiosity pulled me closer. The figure came into view, shifting slightly as I neared. It was a woman, her hair long and wild, her clothes tattered. She raised a hand, waving me down. "Please! Help me!" Her voice was frantic, and it sent a chill up my spine. A part of me wanted to drive past, to ignore her pleas. But another part whispered that maybe she could help me understand what was happening. I rolled down the window cautiously. "What's wrong?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "I need to get away from here," she shouted, her eyes wide with terror. "They're coming for me. They'll take you too if you don't leave." The shadows in my mind stirred at her words, threatening to spill into reality again. "Who's coming for you?" I demanded, the edge in my voice surprising me. "They're everywhere," she said, looking over her shoulder like a deer sensing danger. "The lost ones. They're drawn to you. You can't stay here. You have to drive away." I hesitated, weighing my options. I wanted to trust her, but fear gripped my heart. What if she was another trap? "I can't just leave you here," I said, glancing back at the dark stretch behind me. "Please! You don't understand. They're already here," she cried, her voice rising in desperation. That's when I saw it, a shadow moving just beyond her, merging with the darkness. A shape, dark and formless, shifting like smoke closing in. My instincts kicked in. Without thinking, I threw the truck into reverse. "Get in!" I shouted, heart racing as the darkness encroached. She hurriedly opened the door, jumping in the passenger seat before I even had the chance to breathe. As I shifted back into drive, a sense of urgency flooded my senses. The truck peeled away, tires screeching against the gravel. I stole a glance back, but she shook her head sharply. "Don't look!" I pressed the gas harder, longing to break free but feeling the weight of her presence beside me. "Who are they?" I asked, trying to navigate the unseen way ahead. "They want you," she said, voice shaky but firm. "And we're out of time." A shiver ran down my spine. I could sense their presence, the weight of the night closing in. The whispers grew louder, an unsettling dirge that echoed through the cab. I had to get answers, but before I could press her further, a shadow flitted past the headlights, darting into the oblivion of night. "Hold on!" I shouted, turning sharply down a side road. My mission to escape had just turned into a frantic search for survival as I realized that the real question was no longer just about who they wanted but also how I could outrun the darkness that had followed me back. The gravel road twisted ahead, and I wrestled with the steering wheel, trying to maintain control as the truck bounced over the uneven terrain. The woman beside me was silent now, her eyes darting anxiously between the darkness outside and the dashboard lights. "Where are we going?" she asked finally, her voice barely a whisper. "Anywhere but here," I answered, my voice trembling more than I intended. I glanced in the mirror again, my heart thudding heavily with dread. There was still nothing behind us, but the feeling of being watched lingered like a bad dream. "They won't stop," she said, her voice shaking. "You have to reach the bridge before dawn. They can't cross running water." I frowned, lightning-fast thoughts racing through my mind. "What bridge? How do you know all this?" "I've been running for too long," she admitted, tears welling in her eyes. "They get into your head, make you see things." She shuddered, hands clenching into fists. "Then tell me what they are," I urged. "If we're going to survive this, I don't fully know," she said, glancing towards the passenger window. "But they have a way of twisting your thoughts, turning your nightmares into reality." Ahead, a flicker of light caught my eye, a faint glow breaking through the trees. I pressed down on the gas, hopeful. "Is that it?" I asked, inching closer. "Maybe," she replied, biting her lip. "But we have to be careful. They'll try to lure you." In that moment, I remembered the soft whispers I had heard before. It was more than just an unsettling feeling. It was a call to something deeper. Something I couldn't quite grasp. The road opened up to an old wooden bridge shrouded in mist. A sigh of relief escaped me. We made it, I declared, heart pounding with a mix of victory and fear. Not yet, she warned sharply. We have to go fast. They'll be here. And soon. As we approached the bridge, a weight of dread settled over me, sending a chill down my spine. The glow wasn't merely from the bridge itself, it flickered with a pulsating energy almost inviting. Drive straight across, don't stop, she urged. I pressed the pedal down harder, feeling the truck lurch towards the bridge. The air around us seemed charged, almost electric, and it tingled against my skin. The darkness at our backs had grown restless, shifting and sprawling like tendrils of smoke ready to ensnare us. As we hit the first planks of the bridge, a sound pierced the air, a cacophony of whispers rising in intensity. Panic surged within me. I couldn't ignore it any longer. Pull over! I shouted suddenly, my voice echoing against the creaking wood. I need to see what's happening. Are you insane? She cried, but I was already easing off the gas. The truck slowed, wobbling softly as I turned down my window. The whispers transformed into frantic cries, their sorrow wrapping around my senses. Faces emerged from the shadows, distorted figures, their mouths moving but no words formed, pleading for something just past reach. Stop! She shouted, gripping my arm. Get away from there. They'll take you. But then I saw a face that made my heart stop. It looked familiar, someone I had lost. The sudden shock shot through me like ice water. That's my brother! I gasped, unable to look away. Don't listen to them! She yelled. They're not real! Then everything went dark. The truck began to shake violently, the shadows encroaching with a fury unlike anything I had felt before. I needed to make a decision, and fast, either drive off the bridge back into the darkness or confront the reality of what was lurking just beyond the light. I could hardly think. The darkness enveloping us felt alive, suffocating my mind with dread. I had glimpsed my brother, but was he really there or just a cruel trick of the shadows? Fear surged through me, but there was something else too, a desperate need to know. Go! The woman screamed, her voice breaking through the chaos. Now! I slammed on the gas, the truck lurching off the bridge and into the night. The roar of the engine drowned out everything, the whispers turned into howls, a haunting chorus behind us. The headlights barely pierced the gloom as I sped down the road, adrenaline coursing through my veins. What was that? She asked, looking back at the bridge, terror written all over her face. Just some trick, I tried to convince myself, but her gaze held mine, and it told a different story. The bridge is a trap, she interrupted, her voice urgent. If you go back, they'll take you too. What do you know about them? I demanded, my voice rising in frustration. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. They're the lost, she said, her eyes wide with fear. Those who couldn't cross over. They wait for someone to break. Before I could ask what she meant, something flashed in the corner of my eye. Another glow, brighter than the one by the bridge. I turned my head in time to catch a glimpse of movement, a figure standing by the road, illuminated in eerie light as my headlights swept across. It's them! She gasped, but I was already slowing down, compelled to look closer. It was a woman. She stood still, her face pale, framed by dark hair that hung limply around her shoulders. She raised a hand as if greeting us. Help me, she mouthed, though her voice never reached me. I could feel the weight of her gaze, pulling me towards her. My pulse quickened as I fought the desire to stop. I can't just leave her, I said, my voice softer than I wanted. She's not real. The woman beside me shouted, panic clinging to her every word. Don't listen. We have to keep moving. The figure took a step forward, her expression morphing from pleading to something darker. You don't have to be alone, she whispered, though there was no audible sound. Suddenly, the air turned frigid, cutting through the warmth of the truck. It felt like a warning, a reminder of the danger we faced. I gripped the wheel tighter, heart racing. We can't stop. I can't. With a sudden jolt, the radio blared to life, static screeching. Then a voice emerged, garbled but clear enough to understand. Come back, come home, drive. the woman screamed, eyes wide. Now! The fear in her voice snapped something inside me. I slammed my foot down on the accelerator. The figure blurred in the rearview mirror, fading into the darkness as we sped away. We drove in silence now, the road stretching endlessly ahead. My heart pounded with the realization that whatever pursued us wasn't just behind us. It was in my head too, manifesting through despair and doubt. Was that her? I finally asked, my voice shaky. I don't know, she said, her fingers tangled in her hair, anxiety plain. But we can't stop to find out. But then I realized something. The bridge was behind us, and I felt a sudden chill and unsettling thought crept in. What if crossing back isn't the worst thing? She turned to me, her expression filled with dread. Don't say that. Before I could respond, a loud bang echoed throughout the truck like thunder breaking inside the cabin. The headlights flickered, then went out, plunging us into darkness. I fought the urge to panic as I fumbled with the controls. What happened? I shouted, my voice echoing in the pitch black. Keep driving, she urged, but I couldn't see anything. That S when I heard it again, a voice, soft and desperate, growing clearer through the darkness. Come back. A new wave of terror washed over me as I realized we were far from done. I pressed the gas pedal harder, hoping the truck would somehow find its way through the void around us. The darkness felt thick, almost tangible. What do I do? I yelled, the panic rising in my chest. Just don't stop. We can't stop, she shouted, her voice strained with urgency. The voice echoed again, an unsettling melody creeping into my thoughts. Come back, it rapped around me, sharper and more insistent. I gritted my teeth, pushing everything aside, focusing on the road. A mile dragged by, or maybe two. I could only rely on the dim glow of the dashboard, a weak reminder that we were still moving. Where are we? I managed to ask, my throat dry. I don't know. Just stay calm, she replied, her fingers digging into her seat. Suddenly, a flicker of light emerged in the distance like a candle wavering against the night. It danced and shifted, pulling my attention. I squinted, trying to decode its reality. Do you see that? I asked, dread creeping back in. She glanced ahead and gulped. It could be anything. Don't fall for it. I wanted to ignore it, but it beckoned me. We can't just drive blindly. Before I could question further, I felt my grip on reality start to slip. The engine sputtered, and I had to pump the gas harder to keep us moving. Simon, don't fail me now, I muttered under my breath. The candle flickered again, and I swerved slightly. That S when I saw it, an old gas station. Its neon sign buzzed feebly, the letters barely legible against the encroaching night. It felt abandoned, yet somehow alive. Pull over. We should check it out, I suggested, desperate for any hint of safety, any human presence. No, she shouted vehemently. We don't know who's in there. It's a trap. Ignoring her protests, I slowed down. What if there's help? The doubt tangled with my need to find answers. As I crept closer, the gas station came into clear view. Broken pumps stood like sentinels, haunted memories trapped within their rusted frames. I pulled into the gravel lot, the crunch of the stones under the tires strangely comforting. But as we stepped out of the truck, an eerie silence enveloped us. No wind, no animals, just the faint buzz of the sign overhead. Stay close, I whispered, scanning the area. A chill rolled down my spine. The door to the station creaked open with an agonizing slowness. I stepped inside, the air inside stale with the scent of dust and abandonment. My heart raced as I glanced around. A flickering light in the back caught my eye. Something moved beyond the darkness. Did you see that? I turned towards her, breath hitching. What? She asked, eyes wide with fear. Before I could reply, the shadows grew darker. A figure emerged, half seen. I could only make out the outline, a person, or something like one. Help, it whispered, the voice familiar yet alien. Get back to the truck, I shouted, clenching my fists. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. But as I turned to grab her hand, the figure lunged. I stumbled back, heart pounding, fear clawing at my insides. Run! I screamed, racing back toward the door. The voice lingered, echoing in my mind. Come back! As we burst into the open air, I saw the truck empty, the driver's seat turned to face us, eerily still. A sense of dread filled the air. We weren't done running yet. With my heart still racing, I grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the truck. Where is it? I whispered, glancing around. The empty lot felt like a trap, the shadows whispering secrets. Don't look! She hissed, her voice shaking. Just get in. I shoved the door open, adrenaline surging. We both jumped into the cab, the silence almost deafening. I fumbled with the keys, my hands trembling as I turned the ignition. The engine roared to life, a comforting sound in the thickening tension. Did you see it? I asked, more to reassure myself than anything. What was that thing? I don't know. Just drive, she cried, fear glistening in her eyes. I slammed the truck into gear, and we lurched forward, gravel crunching beneath us as I made a sharp turn. The gas station shrank in the rearview mirror, the flickering sign a fading ghost. But the unease clung to me like an unwanted shadow. What's south wrong with the road? She blurted, her voice rising. Ahead, the asphalt began to ripple, the surface like waves in a storm. I felt my stomach drop. I don't know. This isn't normal. Suddenly, the truck jolted. I struggled to maintain control as the tires skidded across the uneven pavement. The landscape around us shimmered, almost as if reality itself was breaking apart. Keep going, she shouted, her eyes wide. We have to get out of here. I pressed the accelerator harder, hoping to outrun whatever demons were closing in. But the road twisted and turned, pulling us deeper into chaos. Then, a ghostly figure materialized at the corner of my eye, a woman standing beside the road, dress tattered, face blurred. Stop! She wailed, reaching out towards us. I slammed my foot down, barely avoiding her. The truck almost spun out, but somehow I steadied it, heart in my throat. Did you see that? I gasped, looking back at the rearview mirror. She was just a figment. My companion stammered, trying to catch her breath. Just keep driving. But the highway grew more bizarre. Shadows stretched, twisting into shapes that resembled eyes, watching, waiting. Each flicker of light sent a wave of panic through me. What if we're being led somewhere? I don't care, she yelled, her voice a shaky plea. We need to get to a safe place. Safe? We just saw something. I shook my head, fear clawing at my sanity. I didn't know how much longer I could keep this up. Then, I saw it, a small town flickering on the horizon, lights shining like tiny beacons. Look! There's something ahead! I shouted, a sliver of hope slicing through the dread. Just drive! We have to make it! As we approached the town, relief fluttered in my chest. But a whisper echoed in my mind, the same haunting melody. Come back! The hairs on my arms stood up. I didn't want to hear it. Let us go! I shouted, forcing myself to look away from the darkened past. Suddenly, the lights flickered out. The world around us sank into darkness again. I pushed the gas pedal harder, but the engine sputtered. No, no, no! Then, everything went dark, enveloping us in a void. A terrible feeling washed over me. This wasn't over yet. I woke up in my truck again, feeling like I had stumbled out of a dream, yet every unsettling sensation lingered like a shroud. The dim glow of the dashboard illuminated the road ahead, but outside my window, darkness reigned, thick and tangible. The distressing whispers had returned, wrapping around me like a vice. Desperate, I turned the key in the ignition, the engine sputtering reluctantly before roaring to life. It felt familiar, grounding me as I fought to shake off the nightmare. I took a deep breath, trying to focus. The town had vanished, but I was still alive, still behind the wheel. I needed to get off this road, but I also had to keep moving, not just for my sake, but for the woman who had been with me. Where had she gone? I could feel a chill creeping in at the thought. The last I remembered, we were running from shadows, trapped in the dark. With trepidation, I glanced around for her, but she was nowhere to be found. I picked up speed, feeling the gravity of uncertainty as I flew down the road. "Please stay with me," I murmured, hoping she would somehow hear. Nothing but silence replied, and yet the whispers persisted, a haunting chorus mingling in my mind. I shook my head, a futile gesture against the emotion welling inside me. Half of me wanted to scream, while the other half clung to the remnants of hope. Suddenly, a figure appeared at the edge of the road, a girl, hair wild, eyes frantic. I slammed the brakes, heart racing. Was it her? I should have turned away, but I couldn't resist. It was a desperate move, compulsion drove me forward. "Help me!" she shouted, and my heart sank further. An ethereal quality clung to the words, echoing the familiar terror. I rolled the window down slowly. "What do you need?" My voice trembled, but I had to know. "They're chasing you," she gasped, eyes wide with fear, pointing behind her. The shadows frayed into tendrils, but I didn't look. I couldn't let them pull me in again. "You're with them," I accused, my fear morphing into instinct. I could hear them whispering, and I gritted my teeth, doubling down on my resolve to escape. She shook her head violently. "No! Please, they want you. You have to drive away." My breaths quickened with panic. "Who?" But as her mouth moved, it didn't matter. The best defense would be to keep driving. I slammed the window shut, not sparing her another look. Before I could resume my escape, darkness engulfed me again, a shadow flickering against the windshield. I squinted just in time to catch the figure lurch away, a man, a ghost, dissolving back into obscurity. I steeled myself, flicking on the lights bright enough to cut through the veil. The agonizing whispers intensified, crawling into my ears, and I pressed the accelerator. I was racing against unknown forces, racing through a corridor of memories that constantly threatened to chain me down, a desperate dash from something that felt all too poised to reclaim me. As the road twisted, my mind went blank, and I lost all sense of direction. Each bend felt impossible, leading me deeper into the haunted twilight. It felt endless, this cycle of fear, and I was tired. And then it hit, an overwhelming weight crashed over me, and clarity unfurled with it. I didn't have to go back, I simply had to keep moving forward. "Just drive. Focus!" The thought echoed against the crashing waves of uncertainty. I veered off the road as the world around me flickered and blurred, shadows surging just outside the window, inching ever closer to reclaiming what they thought belonged to them. Ahead, a light shimmered in the near distance, a glimmer of hope. My heart surged at the sight. I pushed the truck forward, hand trembling over the gear stick, certain the whispers would fade if I could just reach it. With headlights blazing, I raced towards the glow, my spirit burning through the fog of despair. The truck barreled ahead, and as I surged closer, I dared to believe her warnings echoing in my ears, yet even louder was my own resolve. But then, just as abruptly, the road vanished. I skidded to a stop, my breath hitching as I found myself at the edge of the woods, the light shimmering beyond the trees. It was surreal, an ethereal cocoon separate from this tormented night. I glanced over my shoulder, an instinct so raw it bordered on animalistic, this urge to retreat. But the shadows settled behind me, no longer ghostly whispers, but tangible threats edging closer. I had no choice. Exhaling, I opened the door to the unknown. Heart racing, adrenaline coursing through my veins, I stepped out into that shimmering abyss. "Stay with me," I murmured softly into the night, hoping she could hear me somehow, wherever she was. Shadows lingered at the very edge of my vision, but I faced forward, ready to step into the light. I crossed the threshold, the air thickening about me, a moment suspended in time. Everything around me flickered, shadows fighting desperately against the light that promised salvation. I felt the cold touch behind me, reaching through the night. And then, just like that, it erupted into silence. Perhaps I'd escaped, or perhaps I'd wandered deeper into the labyrinth of my own mind. The answers stayed locked within a fleeting moment, suspended between what was real and what remained unseen. I didn't look back, not knowing what or who I would still find waiting in that ever-looming darkness. I moved forward instead, each step lighter than the last, as the path ahead remained shrouded in lingering uncertainty.